Boom 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 boom.
Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever wondered why some stories just stick with you? Why they feel so, I don't know, perfectly constructed? Or why certain films just feel right for their genre?
Absolutely. It's something we all feel.
Well, today on the Deep Dive, we're pulling back the curtain on the craft of storytelling. We're talking about the core architecture, the story's skeleton, you could say, and the very soul of narrative.
And we're drawing heavily on insights from Robert McKee here.
Exactly. And our mission isn't just to, memorize formulas.
Yeah.
It's to understand why these forms exist, how they really work.
Right. What makes them tick?
Yeah, it's like dissecting the blueprint of a great tale to see its living, breathing heart.
That's a great way to put it. And, knowing the architecture, the structure, and which traditions, which genre it leans on, it definitely enhances the experience for us as the audience.
It makes watching more active, maybe?
Totally. Transforms passive viewing into active appreciation. And of course, for creators, it's a crucial roadmap. McKee really emphasizes these are flexible principles, not rigid rules.
Guides, not constraints.
Exactly. Tools for deeper expression.
So let's talk structure, the skeleton. McKee lays out three primary designs. The first, and probably most familiar, is the classic design, or arch plot. This feels like the bedrock of Hollywood, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It is. Arch plot is the most common structure, and I think it resonates because it mirrors that fundamental human drive,
Yeah.
Pursuing a clear goal against external odds.
Right, leading to some kind of big change.
Yes, undeniable transformation. Think about it. A main character, clear objective, actively chasing it, facing conflicts that come from outside.
It's external forces, events.
Precisely. Time flows chronologically. Cause and effect is super clear. One thing logically triggers the next. Everything makes sense within the film's reality. And the key part, the character goes through a significant, irreversible change by the end.
It's like us confronting the world and being changed by it.
That's the core of it.
So a film like Die Hard fits that perfectly. McClane, clear goal, external obstacles. And he's definitely not the same guy at the end?
Die Hard is a textbook example, yeah. But McKee stresses, and this is important, it's not just for action flicks.
Right.
You see this core skeleton in powerful dramas, even many comedies. The fundamental design is what matters, not just the explosions or the genre label.
Okay, so that's arch plot. Now, mini plot. The name suggests something smaller, more minimalist.
That's a great way to put it, smaller in scope, structurally. If arch plot is about the character acting on the world.
Mini plot is more reactive.
Often, yeah. The character might be more passive, reacting to the world, or maybe just grappling with their inner landscape. Conflicts are frequently more internal.
Struggles with their own thoughts, emotions.
Exactly. And the endings, often open-ended. They leave questions unresolved, give you room to interpret.
Makes you think afterwards.
Right. You see mini plots a lot in character-driven films, those internal journeys. Maybe more common in European cinema, inviting a more reflective experience.
And then there's anti-plot.
Yeah.
What exactly is it the anti of? It sounds rebellious.
It absolutely is rebellious. It challenges almost all the traditional storytelling rules we just talked about.
Like tearing up the map.
That's a perfect analogy. It's making its own way. For instance, the timeline might not be linear at all. Jumps around, loops.
Okay.
Cause and effect could be weak, or events might even seem totally random. Characters might be inconsistent, or maybe they don't change at all, which defies that core expectation of an arc.
Wow. So it plays with your expectations.
Big time. Sometimes it even questions reality itself or comments on storytelling. It's definitely the most experimental design, pushing boundaries.
That's fascinating. So, okay, arch plot is the clear map. Mini plot is a more inward, maybe hazy journey. And antiplot just rips up the map we thought we knew.
Beautifully summarized, yes, like 3 distinct philosophies on how to tell a story, how to engage the audience.
So once we have these big philosophies, how do writers actually build them, like brick by brick? McKee talks about scenes and sequences, right?
He does, and this is where it gets really practical. Think of scenes as the atoms of the story.
The smallest building block.
Exactly. But the genius, McKee points out, is that a scene isn't just about what happens, it's about how it shifts the character's world, internally or externally.
Okay.
He defines a scene as a single place and time where a character experiences a meaningful value change in their life.
A value change? What kind of values? Like good versus evil?
Could be. Or hope to despair, love to hate, freedom to bondage, right to wrong. Those fundamental human experiences with clear opposites.
Ah, I see.
So a scene starts with one value, say hope, and ends having moved towards its opposite, despair, or at least shifted in that direction, positive to negative, or vice versa.
It's like a tiny pivot.
A tiny, crucial pivot, because life itself is full of these shifts.
That makes so much sense. It's like every little shift moves the story's emotional needle.
Yeah.
Okay, so what comes after a scene? Sequences.
Right. Connect a few scenes together and you get a sequence. And a sequence creates a larger value change. Usually it has an interim goal that pushes the story forward.
Can you give an example?
McKee's example of getting a job is good. Character starts unemployed. That's the starting value. Then you have scenes applying, interviewing, maybe facing some setbacks.
Right, each a small value shift.
Exactly. And by the end of the sequence, boom, they get the job. Unemployed to employed, that's a bigger, more significant change, often fulfills a mini objective within the larger story.
Got it. Scenes build sequences, and sequences build the act.
The act, exactly. Yeah. That's the largest structural unit. Now, we usually talk about 3 acts.
But it's not a strict rule.
No, definitely not a rigid rule. But acts are formed by these sequences, and they typically end with a major turning point, a reversal, McKee calls it. Something that completely changes the direction of events.
Ups the stakes, maybe?
Absolutely. Ups the stakes, defines the main tension, pushes the story into new territory.
Okay, this structure is becoming clearer. But what kicks it all off? What's the first domino? The inciting incident, right? The story doesn't really start without it.
Precisely. Couldn't said it better. The inciting incident is the event that throws the character's life out of balance.
Pulls them out of their routine.
Exactly. Pulls them out of their routine and smack into the main conflict. It creates this clear, undeniable before and after in the character's life.
Like in Kramer versus Kramer, when the mother decides to leave.
Perfect example. That single decision immediately overturns their family's world. It ignites the real story. Everything follows from that moment. Without it, you just have, well, stasis. No story.
And where does this inciting incident ultimately lead us? Towards the end game, the story's crisis and climax.
That's the trajectory. After the inciting incident, you get the rising action obstacles mount, conflict deepens.
Pushing the character forward.
Right, pushing them towards the crisis. Now, the crisis is the point of no return. It's where the character must make their toughest choice.
High stakes.
The highest stakes. Often it's a dilemma. 2 bad options, or maybe 2 seemingly impossible good ones. A real knife-edge moment.
And that choice leads directly to
the climax, the peak of the story. It's the direct outcome of that crisis decision. The main conflict gets resolved here, and the biggest, most irreversible change happens.
the payoff.
The ultimate payoff. That central question posed way back by the inciting incident, it gets answered definitively at the climax. And it has to be satisfying, powerful, and totally consistent with the story's themes.
Otherwise, the buildup feels wasted.
Exactly. McKee uses Kiss of the Spider-Woman as an example, a slower film, maybe, but redeemed by an incredibly powerful, earned climax.
Okay, climax delivers the big change. And then, of course, the resolution.
Yeah.
Ending. McKee talks about closed and open endings.
That's right. A closed ending, that's your typical arch plot ending. All the main questions answered, conflicts resolved, character's fate clear, leaves you with a sense of completion.
Tidy.
Pretty tidy, yeah. Then you have the open ending, often linked with mini-plot. The main conflict might be resolved, but other questions, or the character's future, left open.
Makes you ponder.
Exactly. Prompts you to think, interpret, carry the story with you. The End of Paris, Texas is a classic open ending. Leaves you wondering.
So both have their place.
Definitely. Both can be powerful. But the key, regardless of the ending type, is that the climax must be satisfying. That's the emotional peak you paid for, essentially.
That's a fantastic foundation for structure. Really helps see the bones. Now let's dive into the spirit of the story. Genre.
Genre. And what's fascinating here is McKee's observation. He says, we, the audience, are the real genre experts.
How so?
Well, think about it. When you go to a movie, you already have expectations, right? Very different ones if you're seeing a Western versus, say, a horror film.
That's true. You kind of know the rules of the game beforehand.
Exactly. We instinctively know what we're signing up for.
So genre isn't just a label like sticking love story or sci-fi on the poster. It's deeper than that.
So much deeper. Genre carries its own unique traditions, patterns, character types, settings, even common plot lines. And crucially, it carries our expectations.
And specific values, too.
Yes. Think about the sense of justice you expect from a Western compared to the understanding of love you anticipate in a romantic comedy. It's like this invisible agreement.
Between the audience and the filmmaker.
Precisely. We trust this agreement when we walk in, and the writer creates the story knowing about this agreement. Of course, the master's left to play with that agreement, bend it, sometimes break it.
Keeps things interesting.
Yeah.
So how does McKee classify genres? Is it more detailed than just, say, Aristotle's tragic or comic endings?
Oh, much more practical for writers, I'd say. His system focuses on content, theme, narrative style. He covers a huge spectrum.
Like what?
Well, you've got the big ones like love story, horror, and even within horror, he breaks it down. Mystery horror, unknown threat, supernatural horror.
Ghosts, devils?
Right. And super mystery, which is really interesting, where both supernatural and rational explanations seem possible, leaves you truly unsettled.
Keeps you guessing. What else?
The Western. He talks about its evolution, from the classic hero
Some
sheriff.
more complex modern Westerns.
Exactly, like Unforgiven or Dances with Wolves, where the genre's core values are questioned, moving beyond simple good versus evil. Then there's comedy. Its core rule, delightfully simple. No one truly gets hurt.
Laurel and Hardy.
Perfect example. Slapstick chaos, but no real lasting harm.
Any other interesting ones?
Loads. Coming-of-age stories that transition from innocence to experience.
Yeah.
Universal, right? Redemption stories, where a morally fallen character finds their way back. Schindler's List is a powerful example.
On the opposite.
The punishment plot, where a wayward character gets their comeuppance. Think of maybe a stock market film about hubris and the inevitable fall.
Right.
And then, of course, you have crime, thriller, social drama, historical epic. The list goes on, each with its own internal logic, its own contract with the audience.
That is a very detailed breakdown. So with all these genres, all these built-in expectations, where does the real challenge lie for the writer? Sounds like a tightrope walk.
It really is. The basic challenge is you have to meet the fundamental expectations of your chosen genre.
A horror film has to be scary.
Exactly. A rom-com needs to make you smile, feel good. You have to deliver on that basic promise. However, the mastery comes in doing that without just rehashing cliches.
Avoiding the predictable.
That's the goal. Be original, surprise the audience. Masterful writers fulfill the genre conventions, but they bring a fresh perspective. They avoid those well-worn paths. They say something unique.
McKee has a quote about that, doesn't he?
He does. The audience knows the genre, but they don't know the story. The writer's job is to surprise them within that familiar framework.
I can imagine. Like, the first meeting scene in romantic comedies must have been done thousands, millions of times.
Oh, yeah. How many times have you seen a contrived meet cute and just rolled your eyes?
Too many. Making that feel fresh, that's a huge challenge.
It is. And McKee's advice here is gold. If you suspect you're writing a cliche, stop. Think. How else can you convey this moment?
Redesign it.
Redesign it completely. Change character motivations, switch the setting, twist the dialogue. Knowing the genre rules actually frees you up to be creative within them.
Leverage the framework to innovate. Turn the eye roll into a delighted surprise.
You nailed it. That's the art.
Okay, that connects everything so logically.
Yeah.
So to recap, structure is the story's skeleton, right? The bones. Determines how it's built. Arch plot, mini plot, anti-plot.
Precisely. And genres. That's the flesh on the skeleton.
Nice analogy.
It's the story's identity, its character, its spirit, tells us its tradition, what expectations it carries. They're inseparable, really. Structure and genre work together like the DNA of a story.
Each informing the other.
Yeah.
Treating the whole thing.
Exactly.
Understanding this is definitely going to make me look at films and books differently. Not just what they tell, but how they tell it. Much more consciously.
It really does. It just dramatically increases your awareness, your appreciation for the craft. But maybe as a final thought, all these diagrams, these genre codes, they provide the framework, the map. But the real magic, that lies in the creative choices the writer makes within that framework.
It's about knowing the rules and then knowing how to bend them or break them consciously.
Precisely. It's about which moral dilemmas they throw at the characters, how values clash, how they build subtext, how they play with your expectations as an audience member. That deep pleasure we get from a great story, from Homer to the latest series we binge.
It comes from those choices.
It comes from those masterful, conscious choices. It's the writer's unique voice animating these timeless forms. That's the real heart of it.
That shift from rules to creative choices, that feels like where the magic really happens. So maybe we can leave our listeners with this thought. The next time you watch a film or read a story, how much will you notice McKee's structural plays? The genre codes at work. It's definitely worth paying attention to, isn't it? Might change how you see things.
Indeed. Looking not just at what a story tells, but how it tells it, yeah, that truly opens up a whole new door to understanding this incredible art form.
Boom, boom. boom, 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 boom.